Viewer discretion is advised. The following content may contain material that some viewers find disturbing or offensive. While we strive to create content that is informative and engaging, the topics discussed today touch upon sensitive subjects. We believe in open discussion and exploring complex themes, but we also understand that certain content can be challenging for some individuals. Your well-being is our priority. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to click away. We encourage you to proceed with caution and take care of yourself. For those who choose to continue, thank you for joining us in this important conversation. We appreciate your viewership and encourage you to follow our channel for more thought-provoking content.
Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. The Somali walls.
In Mogadishu, Minnesota, you might have heard there's quite a load of money missing, new millionaires, all the kids are leering in fake daycares. The Somali waltz, the Somali waltz, it's the same old song. The Somali waltz, it's sad but true. They're screwing you, dancing to the Somali waltz. Play your cards right, you could be governor. And if you need a green card, marry your brother. With liberal judges on the take, there's no fear of justice while they shimmy and they shake. The Somali waltz, the Somali waltz, it's the same old song. The Somali waltz, it's sad but true. They're screwing you, dancing to the Somali waltz. The Somali waltz, the Somali waltz, it's the same old song, and it's going strong. It's sad but true. They're screwing you, dancing to the Somali waltz. And coming soon to a state near you, new name same tune, the Somali waltz.
Important statement regarding firearms and interactions with law enforcement. Never bring a gun to any interaction with police or other law enforcement officials with the intention or appearance of challenging, intimidating, testing, resisting, or educating them about your rights. Deliberately presenting, displaying, or carrying a firearm in a manner that could reasonably be perceived as a challenge or threat during a law enforcement encounter is extremely dangerous and is almost universally interpreted as an immediate threat to officer safety. This frequently results in officers drawing their own weapons, issuing commands at gunpoint, detaining you at gunpoint, or, in the worst cases, using deadly force within seconds. Key legal and practical realities in the United States, all 50 states. Police are legally permitted to treat an apparent armed confrontation as a life-threatening situation. The moment officers reasonably believe they are facing an armed suspect who may be hostile, most use of force policies and court precedents authorize them to go straight to the highest level of force necessary to neutralize the perceived threat. I was just showing them my rights. I was lawfully carrying. I was open carrying is not a defense if your actions created a reasonable fear of imminent serious bodily harm or death. Courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, have repeatedly ruled that officers may use deadly force when they reasonably believe the suspect is about to use lethal force, and drawing, exhibiting, or pointing a firearm at or toward officers is the textbook example of behavior that creates such reasonable belief. Best practice during any law enforcement contact: do not reach for, touch, display, or mention a firearm unless and until specifically and clearly instructed to do so by the officer.
If asked whether you are armed, answer truthfully and calmly. In jurisdictions where there is no duty to inform, you may politely decline to answer, but do not lie.
If ordered to show hands, keep both hands visible and do not move toward any weapon or waistband.
If ordered to step out of a vehicle or produce identification, move slowly and announce every action in advance. I'm reaching into my back pocket for my wallet now.
Never say or imply that you are bringing a firearm to show, prove a point, assert my rights, or challenge the officer's authority. There is no known case in the United States in which an armed individual deliberately displayed or presented a firearm to police as a form of protest or legal challenge and walked away unharmed and unarrested. The overwhelming majority of such encounters end in detention, felony charges, brandishing, assault on an officer, resisting with a deadly weapon, etc., or death.
If your goal is to challenge unconstitutional laws, policies, or police practices, do so through litigation, legislation, public advocacy, body-worn camera footage, peaceful assembly, and lawful political activity, not by introducing a firearm into a police contact.
Your life, liberty, and the safety of everyone present depend on keeping firearms and law enforcement interactions as de-escalated and predictable as possible.
Another LARPing Antifa individual, heavily armed, who got in a fight with ICE in Minnesota today during the Democrat Party Soros-funded march, got killed. He gets an altercation with ICE. They're fighting. Reportedly, he went for his gun. They killed him. They're professionals. They have a right to defend themselves. But here's what's really important. I predicted all this because the Podesta plan, the Democrat Party plan, was if Trump got back in and I said it's normal activities, they would have blue cities aid the illegal aliens. And when ICE came out to do its job, they would claim they were terrorists and criminals and have mobs attack them. And they believed that someone would then die. That's why 3 months ago you had Axios headlines, "We need to get protesters killed. We need blood." That's what the movie Civil War is about. It's what one battle after another is about. It's their whole plan. That's why I've been harping on it. So now I've seen a bunch of videos of Antifa in Minnesota saying, all right, get out there right now with your guns, start killing ICE. They were saying kill ICE before the woman got killed a few weeks ago. And they have shot their vehicles and killed Border Patrol and killed illegals in vans they thought were ICE. We've seen the violence. We know who's launching the attacks. You have 40 million illegals in this country. You have 10,000 ICE. They got a constitutional job. They're under attack. And the left thinks this is going to be their big trigger. It's not going to work the way they thought. But now they are calling for massive intensifications of violence. They want Trump to declare the Insurrection Act so they can call him a dictator, but that's in the Constitution. The last time it was declared in 1990 by George Herbert Walker Bush in the LA riots. So Trump needs to do this or pull ICE back. I'm not saying he should do that. Notice the left says we're going to defund ICE in Congress. That means no borders into the country. And they've said our demands are get out of the cities, which means unlimited illegal aliens can now live here and the country's broken, who they all sign up for welfare for all the giant fraud you've seen. So this is going to intensify. I'll post some of the videos under this and above it of Antifa saying they're going to start killing ICE en masse now. This is about to kick off. That's why Trump needs to declare the Insurrection Act. He can't put the outnumbered ICE in there to carry out their constitutional court orders to arrest illegal aliens and then leave them out there hanging to dry when Tim Walz, the governor, and the mayor, Fry, won't just send out police to protect them, but also demonize them and say what ICE is doing is illegal to then energize these crowds to act like this. So, these guys are LARPing. They think they're triggering the next civil war. They think they're on the winning side. They're not. But more of them are going to do this now. It's officially kicked off. It's not a hard prediction to make now that you're going to see things escalate exponentially starting today. So that's the reality of this. I'll be filing more reports on it. I'll be live tomorrow, obviously, with the Sunday show out of InfoWars, 4 to 8 p.m. I'll host some other special reports are coming up, probably from the studio tonight. But to watch Antifa so happy this guy got killed and say, that's it, get your guns. Here's where I says, let's go, let's get them. And to know that the DOJ will do absolutely nothing to stop them just shows where we are. The globalists still think they're going to win. They still think they're going to break this country, and they're not. Because while they're busy trying to trigger a civil war, Trump is dismantling the whole globalist system in live time last week at Davos. Follow me on X at Real Alex Jones. on Rumble at the Alex Jones channel, and we'll have more reports there for you. Pray for ICE and pray for the general citizens and these brainwashed mobs actually believe they're out there fighting Hitler, when all they're really doing is fighting people following constitutional duties, arresting child molesters, bank robbers, murderers, you name it. All right, folks, I would advise all you leftists out there, this isn't a game. So you go out there with guns, you go out there and start attacking people, you're up against professionals, and I would bet on you.
My name is Kyle, I'm Antifa, and there's so much rage in me that I've had to record this like 15 times trying to get the message out. They fucked up, okay? Go watch my other videos, doesn't matter if you're not here and you're not caught up, you missed the fucking fight. But if you are, it's time to suit up. Boots on the ground, Nicollet and fucking 26th. My house is 4 blocks away. Anywhere between Franklin and Nicollet and 26th and Nicollet, show up, ready to go. Okay, not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations anymore. I am talking specifically to my fucking followers. This is everything I have fucking talked about, and this is exactly what I said was gonna happen. This is exactly what I said was gonna fucking come when we didn't fucking go and march on fucking Whipple with guns. Sorry. But welcome to America 2026, where Second Amendment is the only thing that's going to keep you fucking protected from literal fucking Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street with impunity. This is not a fucking joke. There's nothing fun to chant about it. Get your fucking guns and stop these fucking people.
In the dead of night, the world wakes to news of another tragedy, questions echoing in empty hallways. Social media erupts as blame bounces from screen to screen, each side growing louder in their outrage. A stern-faced anchor adjusts her microphone, the camera light flicking on, signaling a broadcast that millions will watch. Politicians file into studios, their statements rehearsed and pointed, prepared for a nation desperate for answers. This is unacceptable, a leader declares, voice trembling with righteous anger, the line between empathy and performance blurring. Mothers weep in silence. Fathers grip photos with trembling hands, while crowded newsrooms hum with hurried whispers. Pundits analyze every motive, dissect every word, searching for someone to blame amidst the chaos. An activist clutches a mic, recounting yet another name, another life lost to the flames of fury. Cameras pan to crowds, some chanting for justice, others shaking their heads in weary disbelief. On social feeds, outrage mounts, hashtags trend, and the blame shifts like a restless tide. A battered city street glows under streetlights as quiet vigils bloom with candles and fractured hope. A montage of newscasters, each face solemn, relays headlines while the nation holds its breath. Inside homes, families gather, searching for reassurance as fear drips slowly into the evening news.
Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdsson of World Alternative Media here, and we have some breaking news out of Minneapolis as a federal agent has shot a protester dead. Now, of course, we're seeing the manufactured chaos being created before us in order to bring in emergency orders, the manufacturing of a civil war. This is a very serious issue that we need to go into, as we do have videos from multiple different angles of how this happened there in Minneapolis, which we're going to go into later on in the video. Here's just one example showing what happened immediately leading up to this event. Pepper sprayed. Brought to the ground. Gun disarmed from him. Was in his pocket. And shot 11 times. absolutely crazy. And, you know, I'm going to get in some trouble for this one, but it's only because I am going to be consistent in my effort to both speak out against insane leftist policies, but also speak out against police state activities, which we're also seeing, because the guy was disarmed. And this is actually, there's no doubt about this at all. He was disarmed. We're going to go into more video footage from another angle and a bunch of examples and what the government is saying, what people like Tim Walz is saying, what protesters at the event are saying, and how this is being manufactured to bring us to point B, from point A to point B. After the Renee Good shooting, we had to anticipate, after especially the World Economic Forum as well, that there is something in the playbook here that we need to understand. So we're going to go into that and more today, my friends. Before we do, I urge people to check those links below. If they're manufacturing emergency orders, which, again, order out of chaos, I urge people once again to get prepared today and not wait until it's too late. firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. It has to be that exact link, not a shortened version. It's in the description of the video. Banks are going bankrupt. They have less than 1% cash deposit ratio. They have derivative exposures through the roof. They have inflation on top of the fact that they are pushing us into a digital system with food rations, CBDCs, digital IDs, all this stuff, social credit. It's so incredibly imperative that people prepare for what comes next. You could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium at this site, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and you could schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez, who we do many videos of here at WHAM. He's awake, aware, and knows what he's doing. He'll also get a complimentary investors package, and just let him know in the comments of the forum when you sign up that you found him at World Alternative Media or WHAM, WAM. So again, that's firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. Also, check out our link for WaveWatch 2.2 pre-order today, 1,250 frequencies. There's no Wi-Fi required, no Bluetooth, no EMFs. You don't need to use an app. If you use code WHAM, W-A-M, you'll get over $100 off on this. It helps you soothe your nerves, boost energy, enhance cellular function, and improve sleep. Go and check this out. It's endorsed by people like Dr. Brian Artis and Dr. Motley. Again, that is over at our link for WaveWatch, which is in the description of the video. All right, my friends, let's get into this. So this shooting in Minneapolis, it could be one of those Franz Ferdinand situations, Archduke, who got shot, which helped lead into World War I alongside the false flag of the sinking of the Lusitania. But I believe that this has a heavy toll going forward because there's already military police in the street. The National Guard has been deployed. Trump is blasting Minnesota polls for inciting insurrection in wake of shooting. Where are the local police, he says? Well, again, where are the local police? Who put the federal police in the streets in the first place? I mean, my goodness, we are witnessing the push for a police state here, and they utilize issues that, of course, I get it. The hardcore leftists that have regularly burn down buildings in places like Minneapolis back in 2020 and push ridiculous, insane policies. I get it. We don't like them. No one likes them. But people have a right to protest. People have a right to bear arms. No one was waving the gun around and to shoot someone dead in the street with a bunch of thugs in the street. And I'm saying thugs because at this point, we're at the point of federal police. What happened to not being in favor of a police state? Oh, well, what about the mass migration? Yeah, import a bunch of people from other countries after the CIA helps arm and fund groups like cartels in Latin America or Al-Qaeda, Mujahideen, Taliban, ISIS, Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas in the Middle East. They create the problem so they can be so-called justified in creating the solution. So this is a problem, reaction, solution, repeat kind of scenario, Hegelian dialectic, to get a security apparatus in the streets, a police state, just like they're putting up cameras on all the interstate systems and throughout cities, with facial recognition and license plate readers to determine if people are suspicious for driving from point A to point B. You know what? I'm going to take the nice road home today, the scenic route. Oh, well, what could you possibly be up to? None of your damn business. What happened to the basis of libertarianism that a lot of people had? Now they're cheering on war, and they're cheering on these the police doing these things, and police in the streets and tanks in the streets. Really crazy. I'm going to break that down further for those that might be on the edge over this or like in the middle. I want to break it down further. But again, we have this video. We first see the protester get pepper sprayed here. That's the guy who dies. Guy in the brownish jacket. thrown to the ground. Okay, you could say, oh, well, he's resisting a little bit. Well, he's got a bunch of guys pulling him down. And he did not pull a gun on them. He did not pull a gun on them, I repeat. He was armed. There, you could see they threw the bullets away. And boom, boom, boom. 11 times he was shot. Now, here's another angle, my friends. And this is interesting. Very, very interesting. It's 1 minute and 27 seconds. Check this out on screen. That's where he's thrown to the ground.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Honestly.
I mean, what was that? I mean, the guy was already on the ground. He was already taken. The bullets were already taken off of him. The gun was already taken off him. I'll show you evidence of that in a moment. So why shoot the guy that many times? Why? Like, what is going on with the training? Or is this all by design? I believe both. Who's training? This guy apparently is 20 years in the border as a border patrol officer. How do you be trained so badly? And by the way, with all the other cops around, he could have easily hit the other police too. He's like in the middle of a scrum shooting. What the hell is that?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
I should have warned people of the graphic content, but it's kind of hard to see anyway because it's pixelated. And let's get real, we're all very normalized to this kind of stuff these days.
What the fuck did you just do? The fuck did you just do? Yes! Will somebody call the ambulance?
Someone call the ambulance. Hate to say it, lady. Getting shot that many times, I don't think an ambulance is going to be of much help. They're going to try and do CPR on him, and it's a lost cause.
The ambulance! Somebody needs to call the ambulance! Somebody call 911!
Someone call 911.
I can't believe they just did that! Holy shit! Holy shit! Just... come on! Come on!
Yeah. CPR here. It's a panic situation, so I get it. Call 911, but that's kind of silly. It's pretty silly. But, okay, so we have another angle there. And here we have the man who was shot. He was an ICU nurse named Alex Pretti. He was 37 years old from South Minneapolis. As Mario Nawfal says, from what's out there so far, he was a U.S. citizen, legally owned a gun, and crossed paths with ICE during an operation. Agents say he approached then armed and wouldn't comply. Well, we saw the video. He was pepper sprayed before, brought to the ground, gun taken off of him, bullets taken off of him, and then shot. What is that? I'm sorry, but if we're going to be consistent in our support of freedom and individualism here, we cannot just... I don't care what the guy's views were. It doesn't matter. I mean, a person has a right to bear arms. He wasn't using it threateningly. He was already on the ground, tackled by like 7 police officers. And this guy, okay, I'm guessing later on we're going to find out, oh, he has some kind of criminal record or something. They're going to say something and, oh, people will justify that. It really does not matter. He legally owned a gun. That's guaranteed. It's already been confirmed. And he was killed with 11 shots by these police. Again, I think they're manufacturing chaos here. Man waving gun at feds attempting to arrest illegal criminal migrant in Minneapolis, fatally shot by agent. Was he waving a gun? Because I saw no video of him waving the gun. Now, I want to invoke one thing here. So, it wasn't that far off from where this happened, of course, in Kenosha, where we saw what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. And I totally support Kyle Rittenhouse's right to defend himself in that situation and carry a gun. on the outside of him, openly. It's a little weird to carry a pistol openly, but I don't see any video of that happening. If that is the case, I apologize for getting that wrong, but I think the overall agenda is the same. The message is the same. If Kyle Rittenhouse is rightly able to defend himself and use a gun on the people who attacked him and have the gun there in the first place, this guy is allowed to have the gun there in the first place. He didn't shoot anyone. He was disarmed before he was shot. That is absolutely awful protocol. Well, it goes against all protocol, I should say. And this is going to be a fuse lit here. It's going to lead to so much after the Renee Good thing, which is more questionable with the video. I mean, the guy had internal bleeding after, but the whole thing seems strange. The guy did seem far enough away from the vehicle before he shot her in the head. So there's a lot of questions about that. The woman seemed like a really stupid person who did really stupid things. Her wife seemed pretty dumb as well, and telling her to drive. Yes, all that is true. Blocking the roads, it's annoying. It's stupid. But the idea that, shooting her in the head from the side, which every video I see, he had about, 2 feet or so of space between him and the vehicle on the side, not in front initially. He was just in front right before this happened. There's a lot of questions about that. The point is, this is just justification to the state for more jackboots on the street, for more militarized police on the street. Again, what happened in alternative media to calling out militarized police. So, both could be true. The person killed could be an idiot. The police also shouldn't be militarized in the streets of the cities. That's a sign of a falling empire, my friends, and also a sign of a manufactured crisis to come. I want to quickly mention that before I go into more evidence of the gun being taken off him, the disarming and all that kind of stuff, and what the moron in chief in Minneapolis, Tim Waltz, is saying, I want to point out, it was only September of 2024 where we saw the United Nations Pact for the Future signed. The United Nations Pact for the Future allowed, under emergency orders, for them to shut down your bank account if you say negative things about the state, for them to arrest you, for them to shut down your bank account if you say negative things about politicians even that are in charge, for them to force you into food rations with social credit scores on digital IDs. Now, we have to fast forward to recently how they've brought in the 5-year social media history mandate to enter the United States under the Trump administration, which is literally social credit, 10 years of email as well, photo metadata, iris scans, and biometrics, and all this kind of stuff. That is insane. That is technocracy. But the overall agenda was always to create a problem, get a reaction, then you can mandate the emergency response, the emergency orders. If you've watched my show for a long time, you know I've been talking about this for a long time. So this is the overall overarching agenda that they're bringing in right now, which I want to be incredibly clear about. And now the chances, all these things always happen right after the World Economic Forum at Davos. Why is that? Why is that? We're seeing manufactured crises happen in Minneapolis as we see a massive winter storm, which is really strange, hitting the half of the United States. And meanwhile, and all these emergency orders and panic buying and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, attempts to go after Iran, people who are usually libertarian supporting regime change now, as Israel and the United States boasts about arming some of the people on the street, having Mossad in the protests and manipulating the protests. Then there's Greenland, then there's Venezuela, then the calls for strikes on Mexico and Colombia and Cuba. I mean, all this stuff is happening as the economy sinks, as jobs are collapsing. Look at the labor force participation rate. As we see the push for people in the housing issue to, well, you will own nothing and you'll be happy, renters forever. And as we see people rush to silver and gold. I mean, there's something very strange going on. I think it's, again, all part of the same puzzle. Oh, people are getting sick and new pushes for pandemic treaties and all that kind of stuff. So I think this is an important thing to acknowledge here. I want to continue here with more of this evidence because this is going to snowball, in my opinion. Brandon Straka on X says, new slowed footage raises questions about the sequence of events before federal agents shot Minneapolis. Man, okay, so this is a different angle here. Let's look. Empty hand on that officer. Still empty hand on that officer. Obviously, he's not holding the gun if he's pulling the gun from his pants. They're punching him in the head. Look how many cops. Cop has gun in hand. That is the gun they took off of him. He's already disarmed. He's already disarmed. This is going to be cut and dry in court, my friends. He's already disarmed. Regardless of how you feel about this protester, you have a guy getting shot 11 times by guys while he's disarmed. He was not waving the gun around. It's clear they took it from his pants, as far as I'm seeing. And they shot him 11 times in the streets. This is what causes riots. This is what causes chaos. And the state loves chaos because they can come in with so-called order. Emergency orders, my friends. And the digital ID technocracy that I've been talking about. His hands were empty. Federal agents say immediate threat. Video frames raise hard questions. Gun agents said justified the shooting in Minneapolis. Looks like it was already taken off of him before the shots were fired. So the gun agents said was justified in the shooting of Minneapolis. Looks like it was already taken off him before the shots were fired. Clear frames show an agent pulling what appears to be his SIG P320 out of the scuffle and moving away with it. Then the shooting happens. If that's accurate, he was effectively unarmed at the moment he was killed by Border Patrol and ICE agents. Voila, my friends. As Bonchi wrote on X, we are allowed to have loaded magazines in America. Whether the shooting was justified or not, simply being in possession of a gun with ammo is not proof of intentions to massacre anyone. Sorry, I'm not giving up that premise to the federal government. Because right now, he's mentioning Disclose.tv showed this from Border Control Chief Greg Bovino. He says, and I quote, the suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Just because you have a gun on you, it means you want to massacre law enforcement? What are you talking about? I mean, if that is the case and they find some really weird manifesto like we saw with Tyler Robinson, if we find some crazy fake-looking manifesto, some people might fall for that. But you don't have any evidence of that. You're just randomly making things up. You can't possibly know this yet. And no accessible ID. They could have only figured that out after they took the gun from him, as the video shows. I mean, my friends, as the video shows, they took the gun off of him. They could not have known he had unaccessible ID. And even if he did, that's a small slap on the hand. If you're carrying a gun, then you eventually show them the ID, and then, all good as far as that goes. Not that I'm in favor of even that, but the point is, they couldn't have known that. We have militarized police on the street. We have now tanks in response to this. Now they're deploying the National Guard in Minneapolis again. And they're putting actual, not just MRAPs, but tanks in the freaking streets. Do people understand the slippery slope here? More than a slippery slope at this point. We're going down an icy toboggan hill at this point. An icy toboggan slide. We're zooming through this. It's not just a slippery slope. We have basically what they call justification for militarism, and then the military police shoots a guy dead in the street after disarming him. And therefore, now they bring in more security. Now, they might say later there's more to this. It could happen. Maybe he had another gun on him. The point is, he was clearly apprehended. I mean, look at all those cops holding him down. This is very, very sketchy. This doesn't mean I somehow support leftist policies. It does not mean that at all. I just don't like a police state, which is big government, by friends, which is actually a leftist idea. Look at Romania with Ceausescu. Look at Soviet Russia. This is what a protester said in response to all this after it happened. A protester was on camera saying this.
I got off of work this morning and immediately saw that they had seven guys. Had a guy on the ground and just shot him in cold blood. It was an execution.
Oh shit! What the fuck? They killed him? Did they fucking kill that guy?
And so I came out here to use my First Amendment right to protest that. I can't believe what's happening in our city. Everything was so peaceful and beautiful and loving here until these cowards came in with masks and guns and started inflicting tyranny on our neighbors. They're killing us. They're killing us.
Yeah, and that's not an exaggeration. It's now 2 people that have been killed by the federal government here.
We are a block away from where they executed somebody. We are watching them protect murderers over and over again. It won't stand. What's happening here, if you show the people, this is not rioting. This is not agitation. This is the First Amendment. This is the freedom of assembly. This is what they are not protecting. What they are not protecting is the people. What they are not protecting is the Constitution. What they are not protecting is the people. They're protecting the fucking fascist overlords of this bullshit fucking country. We won't stand for it. America could be great if these fucking cowards got the fuck out of here. Jesus fuck.
Apologize for the language, my friend. So this was a protester, and that was from Status Coup on statuscoup.com. So again, I want to point out something here. It doesn't matter if you agree with the protesters or what they're protesting or not. I mean, something the media is going to always show you, because they're based in fear-mongering and pushing for civil war and civil unrest, is you're not going to see the mostly... And I this is going to sound like CNN here, mostly peaceful protesters, but it's true. Most of them aren't rioting. We have the opportunists that get involved in rioting. We have the provocateurs that police put out there, and then we have just idiots that get involved in rioting. Of course, that's a thing that has been happening in Minneapolis, and we've seen that. But again, that's what they will show. They're not going to show the majority of people not doing that. And again, you don't have to agree with their position. I'm not a fan of mass migration at all. I think it's a horrible thing, and I think it's by design, and it's about causing cultural shock and cultural decline. I think it's about normalizing us to this kind of stuff. It's how you destroy an empire from the inside out. And I believe this came again from them arming and funding these groups over in other countries, causing chaos, bombing these countries, and then saying, hey, come over here, we'll give you welfare. And then people come into your country, and they are getting money from the government while you're struggling to work and have a job. It's all terrible. And the cultural issues are a major issue, and it's the destruction of cultural stability. For sure, all that is true. That does not mean, therefore, problem, reaction, solution, now we need a police state. Because they created the problem in the first place. Stop offering everyone welfare. Stop, destroying other countries and being the policeman of the world. And maybe you won't have to end up with, this situation in your country. Because they're doing this by design. They're importing these people by design. It was always part of this. And Israel has been heavily involved in this. A lot of foreign countries are heavily involved in conspiring with the U.S. government. And, of course, in Canada as well. And, of course, in Europe and all these other places to create this problem. So, yes, not against or not in favor of mass migration at all by any means. However, what we're seeing here with ICE, what we're seeing here with these police is they are creating an environment of security apparatus, warrantless arrests, stuff that we were always against, but now suddenly it's okay because it's different. I don't think so. Being consistent, if you're not consistent, then you have nowhere to draw the line, which means that you have no actual idea what you believe. I will strictly across the line say warrantless arrests of individuals, bad thing. Of course, I live in Mexico, and the people that are here in Mexico I talk to, and Mexicans obviously a lot of them are very much against what's happening in the U.S. with immigration. A lot of them are actually pro-Trump and stuff as well, let's be clear. But a lot of people, it's a very family-oriented conservative society. A lot of people will also say, you know what? Well, yeah, if someone is murdering someone or raping people or whatever, get them the hell out of the country. Of course, yeah, don't associate with them and excommunicate them and all that kind of stuff. Yes, of course. But rightly so, because where I'm in Puerto Vallarta, countless Canadians come here, cause prices to go up. It is a big issue here. And they have an issue where they're like, we need to stop letting everyone in here because it's a problem, and they want more determination over their society. These things happen all around the world. This is something that is very common culturally. But again, when it comes to people in full military garb in the streets, shooting people, warrantlessly arresting people, beating up people for filming, stuff like that. Since when did we become in favor of that? And how is that for the conservatives out there? How is that a conservative policy? For the libertarians out there, how is that a libertarian policy? And if you're not going to stay consistent on that, then you never believed it to begin with. You're only picking and choosing. So people that say things that you don't like, you think should be arrested then, which is just another example of the hypocrisy among both sides of the political paradigm, and it is a paradigm. Now we have Governor Tim Walz saying this.
Feeding families. I salute their courage and their restraint, and I call on all Americans to see the decency that this state is exhibiting and the horrific cruelty, unprofessional, absolute abomination that is passing for what these ICE agents are doing on our streets. They think they can provoke us into abandoning our values. Well, they're dead wrong. We'll keep the peace, we'll secure the justice with our neighbors, and we'll see this occupation ends. Minnesotans and Minnesota law enforcement that continuously is being denigrated by this administration will continue to be the adults in the room, the professionals in the room, the decent human beings in the room that will keep the peace.
So we have him saying this, as well as saying that the state will have the final say over this. Trump, he says, I call on you once again, remove the force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We have seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. Now, again, Tim Walz is a complete moron. He's a big part of this corrupt establishment, the left-right paradigm, of course. I would say that, I wonder what the police are thinking behind him. The chaos is being sowed by both sides here, without a doubt. But creating, again, the police state is a huge step up towards that surveillance state that we've been fighting for all these years, which is big government, my friends. And I would have to agree that what we saw is terrible, but of course he's just going on this, he's riffing on this for political gain. So let's not praise Tim Walz here. Minnesota state investigators say they've been blocked by feds. Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension says federal officials with DHS blocked them from accessing the scene and evidence in the federal shooting investigation. They were supposed to help investigate, but were cut out when the feds said the case would be handled federally instead. So the federal government is going to prosecute the federal government. The federal government is going to investigate the federal government's wrongdoing. We found no wrongdoing is what's probably going to happen here. We see this all the time, and it's so silly. I know I'm going to get attacked and wrung out over this video here, but I'm just being consistent. I don't support giant governments sending militarized police into the streets after creating the problem that led to this in the first place, and then shooting protesters who, he's armed. Why do we have conservatives right now saying, he was armed, he deserves it? So do you deserve it if you conceal carry? You deserve it if you conceal carry. And besides, he was disarmed. Luckily, there are some conservative groups that are speaking out against this, including people like the Quartering on X said, it looks to me like this was like the guy was disarmed. You got to stay principled. You have the right to bear arms. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Suddenly deciding where and where not to have gun control is insane. It means you're inconsistent and you don't have any principles. So I know the social construct says that we cannot support one side without supporting the other, or cannot deny one side without supporting the other. It's not about what about this side, what about that side. Both can be wrong, but one in the context of a certain situation could be more wrong. I mean, It's just, this is basic logic that a 3-year-old learns. But in politics, people forget this because they want confirmation bias for their own side. They want to be able to benefit what they think they believe because that is what their groupthink says. You have a right to bear arms. You shouldn't have militarized police in the streets. You shouldn't cause mass migration and give everyone welfare. You shouldn't be rounding people up in the streets at random, including farmers, as you destroy the supply chain. The end goal of all of this is create a crisis similar to what they would say is a civil war. But of course, it's manufactured. It's not a real thing. Both sides will be controlled, my friends, and the overall agenda will be technocracy, digital IDs, social credit scores, social credit telling you what food rations you can have. Again, they've already done this with UN Pact for the Future, which 193 countries signed on to. They have things like this in Canada with the Emergency Planning Act, sections 18 and 18.1. They have the National Defense Authorization Act and the warrantless arrests involved in that, the Patriot Act as well. They can call anyone a terrorist and just like round people up now. And that's been for a while. I think that was under Bush. That was made worse under Obama. And now it's being made worse again. Can we just be consistent? But nowadays, being against globalism somehow equals going to war with other countries and taking them over worldwide and committing coups and regime change everywhere. Nowadays, smaller government somehow includes police in the streets and cameras using facial recognition to get everyone on camera all the time, which is something that we saw Tony Blair put in the UK years ago. And people on the right were generally pretty angry about that. Now, well, silence. Radio silence. This is going to keep happening. I believe it's going to get a lot worse than this. I hate to say it. Oh, call me black-pilled. I'm just being realistic here. I'm looking at the writing on the wall. This is going to get a lot worse. And they are going to shoot more people, most likely. They want the chaos. And they will push this to the extent where there are... It's not just riots. Because obviously the riots we've seen before with the George Floyd riots were absolutely atrocious. People burning down stores and businesses and stealing shoes and stealing, breaking into banks, blowing up an A&W, like really stupid stuff like that. Of course, that is really, really dumb. Leave people's private property alone. But I have no doubt that this is going to snowball. And I feel like it feels a little bit different than past events. Feels a little bit different than the George Floyd situation. This feels like they're propping up a system which, for the first time in years, has been allowed to really go full throttle, to bring in a security state, a police state, and now there's going to be a battle between, Minnesota and the federal government? This is how civil wars start, and again, I'm not saying the civil war would be real. It's a manufactured situation. But nonetheless, it gives them the power to bring in insane policies and force people under those emergency mandates, which I've been warning about for years here. Which again means they tell you what you can or cannot eat. They seize your money. They debank people. They control people via the digital currency, digital IDs, of course, social credit scores. This is getting out of control, and I don't know where the conservatives are at on this because, as someone that doesn't believe in leftism by any means. I think leftism is a plague. I believe that conservatism is just a smaller version of the same problem. Personally, I'm a voluntarist, but I'm wondering where the conservatives are on this, because this is not pro-family, this is not pro-God, this is not pro-small government, this is not pro-individual liberty, bearing arms, free speech. All these things are just thrown to the wayside. Ask yourself why now, and where are the consistent conservatives? Anyway.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I was going to talk mainly about, what happened with the Jack Smith testimony in Congress the other day. And, want to talk about, Jack Smith testimony, how one guy was threatening another guy during the testimony, let's put it that way. But something happened today that caught my attention, too, on January 24, 2026. Another ICE shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota today. Yes, there was another shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota today. Now, this is Alex Jones' statement at Real Alex Jones. This is a statement on his X account, basically. It says, break-in exclusive. See, video analysis proof that the latest ICE shooting of the armed agitator Alex Pretti, I think his name is, in Minnesota today was 100% justified. Alex Pretti is seen reaching for his holster in slow down footage before the first shot is fired, clearing the brave, heroic ICE agent from any wrongdoings, which altogether could be true. Now, Josh from World Alternative Media gave a different aspect, so I could look at all angles of this stuff, And, here's the thing, what it looks like to me from the very beginning, he challenged the ICE agents and got physical. And we know he had at least one gun on him because they took it away from him. He could have had another gun as well. Some people do carry two pistols on them. I see it happen all the time. I only carry one. That's all I need. But some people will carry a couple of them on them in case something happens to the other one, I guess. And, I will know this for sure, right, wrong, or indifferent. The left will exploit this situation. Indeed, you have Antifa already calling for you already have Antifa calling for armed uprisings as it is right now over this right now. You have crying crocodile tears on the streets yet again. You have Governor Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, basically making public statements about this stuff like this as well. So they're going to exploit this as well. Now, Josh Singleton from Walter Media did make some good points. They're using these situations to create probably massive civil unrest, basically get everybody hyped up, basically, get everybody mad and agitate, stuff like that, and try to cause major uprisings. Trump's major campaign promise, one of his major campaign promises was to deport all these illegal immigrants out of this country. But a lot of them were brought in here by federally funded NGOs through the CIA, basically. That's a proven fact. That's how long got in. That's why we got over 20 million illegal immigrants in our country right now because of that. And along comes Trump is going to save the day, which I know he's trying to get a lot of these illegals out of our country. But, I know he's fighting the courts and stuff like that. But right now, the pedestrian plan is in process right here. And I think they're using ICE agents as well as the proxy of that, if you understand what I'm saying. Because they're using them, calling them Nazis, Gestapos, everything else, basically, to justify their actions, stuff like that. Now, a few weeks ago, since the Renee Goodman shooting, they've been calling for armed uprisings against ICE. So they're starting to start showing up with firearms and stuff like that. So, so you had this guy come up with this firearm, maybe firearms, basically, and caused another scene, got him in a situation, and which unfortunately led to his death, So, what's going on here, I believe, people are going to start bringing more firearms to these ICE raids, these ICE protests, stuff like that, and challenge them with firearms. And let me tell you something. Now, I'm pro-Second Amendment. I have firearms myself. But if you go up there and challenge a police officer, any law enforcement official, basically with a firearm, you're going to put yourself in a very bad situation. The only way you get lucky out of this if you get charged with the crime and the felony. That's the best scenario you can hope for right there. But in the worst case scenario, you end up in a deadly force situation, which will cause the end of your life. I'm just being honest with you. So if you can go challenge any law enforcement officials, federal or state or city or county, if you go challenge them with a firearm situation, you're going to put yourself in a very, very bad situation, basically. And be prepared try to be prepared what's going to happen to you, okay? Be ready what's going to happen. That's all I got to say, because it's not going to turn out good for you. Okay, no matter how you're going to spend it, they're going to end up winning, and you're going to end up losing. Okay, so I would say very careful. Don't do it. If you're going to challenge a law enforcement official, I mean, the best way to do it is through the courts and through your local representatives, put it that way. Okay, so I'm going to say it again. If you're going to challenge law enforcement officials, the best way to do it is through courts and through contacting your local elected representatives. That's probably the best way you can do it. Probably the slower way to do it, but that's the best way. But if you start doing armed resistance against law enforcement, basically, then the situation got 100 times more hotter. And the situation is you will lose, and more likely you're going to lose with your life. I'm just being honest with you right here. Now, as far as this ICE shooting that happened on January 24th on 2026, was it justified or not? I guess that's debate. It's going to be debated later down the road, basically. Let's put it that way. It's going to be debated later down the road. Will it wind up in court? Only time will tell. Now, as far as I know, what I'm hearing, Department of Homeland Security is going to support the officer in the situation right here. Trump posted on Truth Social right here. Let me go find it right here real quick for you. It should be pop up here in a minute. I do follow Trump on Truth Social. Okay. Where's it at? Right here. I'm looking for it. It'll be here in a minute, I'm looking for it right here. Now, there's an old saying, if you play stupid games, you will win stupid prizes. Here you go, right here. This is a long True Social post, so be ready. This is what it says, though. This is the gunman's loaded with 2 additional full magazines. The picture's down here. And ready to go. And what is that all about? Where are the local police? Why aren't they allowed to protect ICE officers? The mayor and the governor called them off. It is stated that many of these police were not allowed to do their job, that ICE had to protect themselves. Not an easy thing to do. Why does Ilhan Omar have $35 million in her account? True. Why? And why? Where are the tens of billions of dollars that have been stolen from the once great state of Minnesota? True. We are there because of massive monetary fraud, with billions of dollars missing, and illegal criminals that are allowed to infiltrate the state illegal criminals that were allowed to infiltrate the state through the Democrats' open border policy, which is true. We want the money back, and we want it back now. Good luck with that. Those fraudsters have stolen the money and are going to jail, where they belong. This is no different than the really big bank robbery, which of what you're witnessing. It's a cover-up for this theft and fraud. True. The mayor and the governor is inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous, and arrogant rhetoric. Instead, these sanctions political fools should be looking for the billions of dollars that has been stolen from the people of Minnesota. In the United States of America, let our ICE patriots do their jobs. 12,000 illegal alien criminals, many of them violent, have been arrested and taken out of Minnesota, rightly so. If they were still there, you would see nothing far worse than you are witnessing today. One thing too, that if Biden had done this job in the 4 years he was president, we wouldn't have this problem right now. And it gets to me, every time an ICE situation happens, the left will cry crocodile tears, but we stay silent while the murder will stay silent of the murders that the illegal immigrants got caught up in. I mean, you can hear and see, even read countless stories of young women, young girls getting beaten, raped, tortured, stuff like by illegal immigrants. I see it all the time. You can see videos, of these illegal immigrants being convicted, basically, of raping and torturing young girls. I see it all the time. You see it constantly. The left is totally silent. But something happened with Isaac Renee Good and this guy right here. They're going to go up in arms because of ICE shooting. But they're going to suit the narrative. And it's probably part of a broader and bigger plan. Exactly what it is, part of a broad and bigger plan. Exactly what this is. Okay, they're using basically the ICE agents as an excuse, basically, to cause insurrections, to cause these mass protests, to cause an armed rebellion, basically, and put Trump in a situation where we have no other choice but invoke this Insurrection Act in Minnesota, because the governor of Minnesota and the mayor of Minneapolis is not doing their jobs. It's protecting the people of Minnesota against crime, violent crime, and fraudster crimes, put it that way. The fraud went on in Minnesota for many years, thanks to Tampon Tim and the mayor of Minneapolis, basically. That's exactly where they're at right now. So all it is, basically, is part of a big game, a big plan, basically. And this could be the fall of the United States if we go into another war. But at least we'll probably see a major uprising here real soon. And just be ready the best you can. All right, now, though, I have to talk about something else, too, real quick. Please bear with me. Back to the J6 stuff. Deranged Jack Smith went to testify before Congress here a few days ago, and they were grilling him, and rightfully so, and stuff like that. Now, Deranged Jack Smith claimed that this wasn't political. That's what he's saying right there. I have to disagree, because he was once a UN prosecutor one time. I think he prosecuted a Republican governor in Virginia, basically, where the Supreme Court overturned his conviction. But, he's been caught, I believe, manufacturing evidence and stuff like that, try to frame Trump, basically, any way, shape, or form he can. That's exactly what he was doing. But you have this, insurrection cop, basically. What's this guy's name? Oh, wait a minute, it's on band.video. I'm sorry. I'm stitching it. I'm going to stitch with this video right here towards the end right here. And here it is, Okay, it's a J6 Democrat lapdog named Michael Fione. Blew up at Ivan Racklin. Okay, Ivan Racklin was a reporter at the hearing with Jack Smith. And, Michael Fione, I believe his name is, was once a D.C. cop. He was a Capitol police officer that worked in the Capitol building for many years. He was cussing this guy, threatening this guy, and telling so many lies about this guy right here. And I advise you to watch the clip. I'm going to stay for this one. It will tell you all about it, okay? This is totally irregular. It's totally psycho what this guy did. And the sad part about it, he was once a cop, a law enforcement official at the Capitol building, So he was like the Democrat lapdog, his useful idiot, basically, for promoting and enforcing their agenda. He looks like more like an enforcer than anything else. And he got so bad they had to almost restrain this guy from attacking the other guy, basically. And basically, I think they had to escort him out of there. And this guy used to be a Capitol Police. Capitol Police, but he worked at the Capitol building as a police officer, as a law enforcement agency. And that's the part that scared the most, okay? So please check it out for me, all right? Peace out. See you later. Peace and bye-bye.
Am I the only one who did not expect a near brawl during a congressional hearing? You need to watch this if you follow the John Boris 6 fallout. Things just got personal. Here is the fast, messy timeline. During a recess at the Jack Smith testimony, Racklin, a former Army reservist, had posted about suing Fanone. He approached and says he greeted Fanone. Fanone snapped, swearing and accusing Racklin of threats to his family. That included a shocking allegation about threats to his kids. Racklin denies the claim. The exchange escalated and police stepped in. Fanone was briefly escorted out. Racklin filmed the encounter. Racklin later suggested legal action for defamation. Fanone has published his side on Substack. Two men involved in the hallway confrontation. Two versions of what happened are now public. Now a public fight over who is telling the truth. And there could be potential courtroom next steps. Stay tuned. This one is far from over.
But I want to digress here into a microcosm because it's an interesting story. It's a big story. And what's happening with the truth of J6 coming out is obviously even bigger. That it was a Fed insurrection, that it was staged by Nancy Pelosi, that they did have hundreds of FBI operatives and FBI in the crowd, that they did have other NGOs, that they did break in. that they did put handcuffs on the other feds and act like they arrested them, but then take off the handcuffs and high-five them. They staged it. And then you've got the pets of Pelosi, these key Capitol police officers, not just the one that executed Ashley Babbitt. And so Ivan Raiklin, former Green Beret, Defense Intelligence Agency lawyer, you name it, he's up there covering things daily. We have him on all the time on Capitol Hill and in and around D.C. and Virginia. And so he's there at the J6 hearings or the Jack Smith hearing where they're bringing up J6, and Michael Fanone, who is the pet of Pelosi, I mean, literally constant photos of her basically sitting in his lap, kissing all over him. He's the guy that just 2 weeks ago said, listen, you need to use the Second Amendment, go get guns and use it on ICE. They're criminals, they're illegal. Take them out, basically, which is a real insurrection, okay? And I always thought he looked like a crazed gremlin in the eyes when I've seen him on TV and stuff, when he's not doing fake crying. But he starts flipping off the Congress people while they're talking. He also lifts his hands up and does the shoot a gun at him. I posted on my X account last night so we can go pull that up for folks. It's at Real All Shows on X. You want to see it. But he's like bang, bang to the congressman. He's flipping him off as well. And then under his breath, coughing, going, F you. And they actually say, stop that. And then he gets up at the end of the hearing and goes over and gets in Ivan Raiklin's face, who's like 30 feet away, and tries to start a fight with him, and Raiklin's controlled. And we have all the side angles, back angle, front angle. And then he says, oh, my God, you say you're coming to rape my children. He told people to kill us. I mean, you'll hear the audio. You'll see the video. And that's the left. And, of course, I already knew Raiklin wouldn't do that. Plus, I went and looked. No one's ever accused Raiklin of that. He's always been very polite. And so as soon as he realized that he'd act like a fool and had to be held back trying to attack Raiklin, who was just totally calm, he just made up a lie. I mean, we're talking Jussie Smollett stuff here, folks. So I broke the exclusive last night that Raiklin is going to sue him if he doesn't retract. But imagine he's like a couple rows up and over, pops up and says, it's my mortal enemy. It's Ivan Raiklin. Ivan reaches out as he walks over with his hand to shake his hand. Starts saying, don't pretend we're not mortal enemies. And then starts threatening to kick his ass. So the other goon cops from J6 grab him and hold him back. And then the Capitol Police come over and tell Raiklin, sit down, you're causing a disturbance. And it's just total upside down world with these people. And you got this crazy man who a week and a half ago is literally, we played the clip, saying you got a Second Amendment, these guys are illegal, they're not real officers, get your guns, and you know what to do. I mean, we never said that about the Capitol Police. So let's go ahead and play him saying F you to the congressman when he's pointing out that Jan 6 was an inside job. And let's go to, there's a bunch of side shots of this happening, and then Ivan on his own phone shooting it. And then Ivan wanted to have a witness that was there on, that's fine. But it's like, do I need a witness? The sun came up this morning. I know they're denying it, and the left headlines are crazed Green Beret, tries to cause an altercation, attacks the little innocent cupcake, Michael Fanone, but that's not true. So, yeah, great. Have an eyewitness on that had 2 biological eyeballs that saw it. We can go watch 15 different angles of the same thing. Fine, we'll do it. But in a way, that's almost like going to their zone, when they're like, oh, he attacked us. But again, the bigger issue is that it's all coming out. It's come out that it was a Fedsurrection. And that's why Michael Fanone is so mad. So let's just play the clips back to back. First, him cussing and flipping off Congress. By the way, anybody else does that, your ass is thrown out of there. Owen didn't even cuss at him or flip him off. He just spoke and then got indicted for it and put in jail. That was the first time. So if you're a conservative and say you're lying and then leave, jail time. But if you're like F you, screw you, boom, boom, flipping them off, that's totally good. But again, it's the arrogance of this guy. So here's the clips.
I would like to quickly address the police officers of January 6th Mr. Don, Mr. Fanone, Mr. Gonell, Mr. Hodges. I'm a member of the new select committee to actually examine what happened that day. And I can tell you, gentlemen, that the fault does not lie with Donald Trump. It lies with Yogananda Pittman and the U.S. Capitol leadership team. We know they had the intelligence and there was going to be a high propensity for violence that day. Claim my time, yeah.
You will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. We've had some disruptions already. We don't need that.
By the way, hit pause. We can delay it ourselves on our end for radio stations, but I want everybody to actually hear him say, go fuck yourself. So can we get the raw one? I want to get that on tape here for the general public. Okay, but the point is he's literally up in the front row saying, flipping him off, saying, go F yourself. They hear him and say, you need to stop that. And my point is, anybody else would have been thrown in jail. And I'm over First Amendment, so maybe the first time, don't throw him in jail. I'm just saying, according to their rules, this is an insurrection worse than, Pearl Harbor. Their takeover of these hotels, their storming of ICE facilities are way more violent than Jan 6, and most of that was feds that started it. I was there. Remember that. Yeah, here it is with the not censored.
I would like to quickly address the police officers of January 6th. Mr. Don, Mr. Fanone, Mr. Gonell, Mr. Hodges. I'm a member of the new select committee to actually examine what happened that day. And I can tell you, gentlemen, that the fault does not lie with Donald Trump. It lies with Yogananda Pittman and the U.S. Capitol leadership team. We know they had the intelligence and there was going to be a high propensity for violence that day. Claim my time, yeah.
You will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. We've had some disruptions already. We don't need that. Let the gentleman may continue.
We know the Capitol leadership team, specifically Yogananda Pittman, had the intelligence, and there was going to be a high propensity for violence that day.
Again, for radio listeners, he comes over to Ivan, gets in his face, and then he's the bad guy. The cops get in Rakelin's face.
My children, the rest of the audience, please sit down. Rape my children. Rape my children, you sick asshole. Rape my children.
Ivan threatened to rape his children. No, that's true. Then he went out and got in fights with people outside. Here's Ivan's video of it.
Hey, Michael. Hey, what's up, buddy? Ivan Rakeland. Why do you have to swear at me?
What's that?
Why do you have to swear at me?
Oh, dude, don't pretend like we're not mortal enemies.
Well, why do you have to lose your cool like that? I've been always professional with you.
I'm not losing my cool.
Every single time I communicate with you,
You're a
I
traitor to
am
this
always
country.
professional with you.
Well,
and it requires other people to contain your Tourette's syndrome. Okay?
I'm not going to get from that. You've threatened my family and you've threatened my life.
Have
You're
I?
a traitor to this country.
Why are you spasmodic?
Am I spasmodic?
Absolutely.
Do
Look
something.
behind you.
Do something.
Why should I? I'm communicating with you and trying to calm you down. Right? Look at your face. You can't even control yourself. You can't even be a man.
Trust me, I'm using a lot
You
of
see how
restraint.
many people are constraining you?
Come get me.
Look at me. Total control
These are the
over
type of
my
Capitol
mind
cops that
and
took
body.
out Ashley Babbitt.
Total
Real
control
tough
over
guys.
my body, and I'm totally dominating you right now.
Sir.
Totally dominating you.
Sir, let's step aside.
I'm not.
This guy
I'm
is
just
threatening
standing
my family, threatened my
I'm just
children,
standing here.
threatened to rape my children.
Oh,
rape
really
my
now?
children, you sick.
Did that Joe Biden rape his daughter?
Rape my children.
More people need to contain.
Maybe he's Joe Biden.
Always. Listen.
So I love the Capitol cop who's on duty comes over while the other guy's reaching over like he's going to attack Ivan Rakeland, and then they come over, you're bad, Ivan Rakeland. This is how it always is. Next, they'll say Ivan Rakeland peed on children's graves or something. So, Ivan, this is just a perfect microcosm of their mindset. He was so upset during the hearing with troops coming out. Wow. I mean, you've got to sue him. I know you're sending him a letter to retract under the statutory law. If he doesn't, you got his ass.
Absolutely. So I'm just going back and forth with my attorney. It's basically, he said, take a look at the draft. Looks like it's ready to go. We're going to send it to the registered agent, probably for his publisher of his book. I just sent Daria a quote that's relevant to understand Fanon in this, where he's basically Nancy Pelosi's lackey. But bottom line, it's going out today, and we're going to give him, I think, just for litigation purposes, we're going to give him a few days to retract it. If that doesn't happen, then absolutely, this is a total slam dunk defamation per se here in Virginia. You can see there, from time to time. This is according to Fanon's own book that he was, I mean, they paid him off with that. If you can read through that, if I can read through that real quick, Alex, bring that back up. It says, from time to time, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi calls to check in, sometimes via FaceTime at 3 a.m. in the morning. I don't think she sleeps. I've had drinks with Congressman Eric Swalwell, a Democrat, Adam Kinzinger, a Republican. Liz Cheney and her dad took me out to dinner. And this is just one instance of it. I mean, many instances in his book that I actually read and listened to right after I broke my leg a couple of years ago when I was researching January 6th and these 4 Capitol Police / MPD officers. He talks about how he drinks all the time, how he had drug problems back in the day. Maybe he still does. I don't know. And then also that he interacts with Pelosi on a regular basis, along with Jamie Raskin and others.
And we now have Pelosi video out of her daughter and her staffers saying they planned this for 2 years and that they knew and stood down. So they're behind it. He's pissed. And then he comes over to you. And then when he actually makes it up that you've said you're going to rape his children, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I think what happened right there, Alex, is this is the only thing I can think of is that just like when he did on January 6th and live, you look at his body camera, it's actually coming out. A lot of people that have already put this out that are J6ers about Fanon and him lying about what happened to him that day across all different platforms. The body cam is going to probably go viral now. And so you're going to see that he totally lied. What he said happened never happened. And when you get a rabid dog in the corner that's been lying their whole life and they're getting pressured into getting the truth out, that's the reaction. So he totally lost his cool on me because I wasn't going to bend a knee. He usually, I guess, tries to bully people, look them in the eye and face off with them. And you can tell that my heart rate probably didn't go above 40 beats per minute the entire time that I was standing there, because you can never put fear or have apprehension of harm in my mind. I control that, just like I explained. I control and have total dominion over my brain and my body. And obviously, he does not have that self-discipline to do so. And I also reminded him, I'm totally dominating him. Just like you say on your show and all the time, we are just completely decimating the deep state. And this is, I think, a key piece of content that is now going to change the vector of, we've hit the apex of BS. And I think those that are bystanders that believe the hype of the last 5 to 10 years are going to view that video. Thankfully, it's going viral to see this is what truth looks like, unwavering against demons and liars. And it just manifested.
Yeah, and I know you got your friend on, who's another great reporter and patriot, to say, oh, he saw this happen. We all see it on the video, but I know why you're doing that. I know that there's news articles. It's everywhere. Ivan Raiklin, the crazed Green Beret, tries to start a fight with the poor little Michael Fanon. And I mean, so, but it just shows the deception machine. Imagine his brain. He just suddenly, instantly goes, oh God, I look like a fool. They've had to restrain me. Ivan just pointed that out. You want to rape my children. You said you're going to rape my kids. I mean, what kind of brain just comes up with that?
When he tried to bully me into, and then he saw that I didn't hesitate and didn't back down, I think that's when he had to go into the false accusation and the victimhood mode. We've seen him do that over the last 5 years, and that was just another instance of it. And the reason why he does that is because he's faced no consequence. He only gets lauded. He gets book deals. I mean, there's constant. It's just ridiculous, okay? What this is going, and I'm going to try my best in order to create courage in Jim Jordan and this committee and the U.S. Capitol Police officer that he Officer Fanon, former MPD, disgraced MPD officer Fanon, assaulted the female U.S. Capitol Police officer after he was removed from interacting with me. I was never given a warning because I've talked to multiple U.S. Capitol Police officers to ask them, did I do anything that remotely would trigger a warning? And every single one of them said, I can't believe how composed you were.
Yeah, for those that
and
are on radio and that didn't
give
see
you
it,
any
for people
warning.
that don't see the video, you're there. He comes from 2 rows ahead, starts bobbing back and forth at you like he's a cobra. You hold out your hand. And he goes, dude, we're mortal enemies. Don't act like we're friends. Then he starts coming over and threatening you. So, again, it's just everything with him is a total and complete lie. We got your witness on, Leland Lerman, who can obviously give some context and stuff that might not have been caught on tape. We'll go to him in a moment. But just in general, you're an expert on J6, one of the top ones, other than, I would say, somebody like Stuart Rhodes, who's been inside and outside of the jaws of it. Recap briefly, Ivan, what really happened on J6 and why they're so upset that things are coming out.
Bottom line, it was a Fedsurrection, and then everything after that, from the legislative branch to the executive branch, was a Fedsurrection cover-up, okay? And they know that the exposure is going to happen because contextualizing, remember, it went from the hands of the legislative branch and Pelosi, the weaponization. Then it was handed over after the Democrats lost in 2022 over to the DOJ and Jack Smith. And so you saw the confluence of MPDC, U.S. Capitol Police, the Democrats, the legislative branch, and Jack Smith all in one room where the entire country saw that no one is believing that lie. And now we're starting to basically put foot on neck of these liars. And now we have to motivate the coward, cuck Republicans to actually hold those liars and treasonous to account.
That's right. I've seen some of the work
MPD
of
officers are the ones that battered and slaughtered Lila Morris. MPD officers were the ones that almost murdered Victoria White. MPD officer like Michael Fanone lied their way through life the last 5 years.
Now, Leland Lerman, I'm aware of some of his work, but he was there, and I just want to bring him up.
In that white suit right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Leland Lerman, tell us from the angle you saw with your own eyeballs what really happened and where you see this going.
Thanks, Alex. So I was there. I'd been invited to participate by Ivan the day before, and I made sure to be there because, as you know, many Americans have a hard time understanding what's going on with this particular situation. And so I wanted to see for myself. And as I observed what happened, I considered it to be a contest of champions. I saw immediately that this was their champion and that Ivan is a champion for the other side. And as I was watching, I mean, to be perfectly fair, I didn't really expect anything other than what happened because I knew Ivan fairly well, but his conduct and his courage and his willingness to engage on the merits of the situation demonstrated that not only is he a heroic individual, but that the reality of his cause, the truth and the justice of his cause was transparent.
Well, that's why they're so incredibly upset. So it's one thing to see the video. Obviously, Michael Vaughn is a complete maniac. But what do you make of them spinning it now that Ivan started something, the cop acting like Ivan did something? That to me shows how scared they are.
Well, let me be very clear. I would like to say that I felt like Ivan did make the first engagement, but I don't dispute. I feel that was perfectly justified. This is a situation where Americans need to communicate across this boundary. And it was an entirely fair challenge that Ivan extended, which was, can we talk about this? Now, I think that it's probably also fair to say that Ivan knew that this gentleman was not going to be up to that challenge. But for those of us who haven't been following the situation as closely as Ivan has, this was a remarkable testament to the fact that their position is insecure and that the people that they have recruited to represent them are therefore insecure. Now, I'm not sure exactly.
Now I get what you're talking about. We have a C-SPAN camera footage. We have a C-SPAN camera footage of right before the other angles when the Capitol cop blows up, that Ivan talks to him and just says, "Hey, can we talk?" So that's supposedly the great evil that Ivan engaged in. Ivan, what did you say to him?
Yeah, it's a Metropolitan Police Department officer. I put my hand out and said, "Michael, Ivan Raiklan," and then that's immediately went to a litany of Tourette syndrome responses. And then the rest you saw. And as he was being pulled out, he essentially tells the U.S. Capitol Police officer that was performing very well. The two Capitol Police officers that kept the cool there, I have to laud them because they operated very professionally and kept things under wraps. But Mr. Fanone, basically, he said, it'll be in the video, "Get your hands off me, get your effing hands off of me," and essentially nudges. Any other human being that would have done that in a committee hearing room, like you said, Alex, would have been immediately arrested. Okay? Immediately arrested.
All right, Ivan, stay there.
Then he wouldn't have had the opportunity
Leland,
to
stay there.
further.
Hold on just a second. We got to go to break. We're going to come back in 2 minutes, do 5 more minutes on this for you both to get closing comments on it. But I wanted to just get on record what really happened. Thank you so much. Well, you've got a real deep state lapdog in this Michael Fanone. And he's really upset that his house of cards has fallen. He flipped out on Ivan Raiklan yesterday for no reason. Said, "You have threatened to rape my children." Ivan, in closing, and also your friend and associate Leland Lerman that was there, that saw this. Well, obviously, we have the video proof of it. Why do you again think they're so desperate? I know you've answered that, but I want to elaborate. And then, obviously, why would he just make up something totally insane like that? And then look at the people around like as if that was just supposed to demonize you as a bad person. It just certifies even more what a congenital liar he is, Ivan Raiklan.
Yeah, so if you want to litigate in the courtroom, you need to have the law on your side. You need to have the facts on your side. When you don't have either, you have to resort to complete lies. And they're so used to, officers such as Mr. Fanone are so used to lying that that's their go-to when they don't have the truth on their side. And I think this was extremely evident. And he's going to try to spin it however which way he wants. I mean, like you said, 2 biological eyes and 2 biological ears is really all you need. And you can take it from everybody that was in that room and everybody watching. And I think I want to give Leland a couple minutes to just describe further what he saw, because I happen to be in it. I always want to get feedback on whether or not I comported myself in a manner.
Yeah, well, I think the video is clear, but he can elaborate if he wants. But just in general, what did you make of just the general behavior, Leland?
It was stunning. I mean, I have to hand it to Ivan, also to his trainers, to the United States of America. I'm a pacifist, but I saw a champion at work. I saw a man whose training was the utmost professionalism. But more than that, I saw a man who was on his own, putting all that training to the service of this country in its time of need, without institutional support. It was clear he was just speaking the truth. He was acting on behalf of the truth. And the clear experience I had was that the other gentleman was protesting too much. As Shakespeare said, methinks the lady doth protest too much. And it's a common understanding in an argument. It's when somebody freaks out like that, there is clear cause to be concerned about the validity of their argument, their point of view, and the truth of what they're saying.
Well, they're going to be really concerned as Congress continues to investigate J6. My problem, Ivan, is we have the FBI director lying, saying there were no FBI agents there. Now we know there were 200 plus. So the real bottleneck here is Pam Bondi. Any new developments on that front?
No, the bottleneck is not only Pam Bondi. It's right now the Republicans and Democrats are locking arms so that this new select subcommittee, the J6 subcommittee that Loudermilk is heading up, they're not giving them any ability to look at U.S. Capitol Police's role in January 6th. And as we saw Steve Baker's information coming out, the way that the deep state and then the disinformation media complex responded to that gate analysis, it leads me more in the direction to believe that the U.S. Capitol Police had much more of a role in the January 6th Fedsurrection than even I come to the conclusion of. And so I hate saying stay tuned, but when the Republicans and Democrats are complicit, that control the entire political landscape, are complicit in covering something up, it's incumbent on us, independent critical thinkers, to expose it all, and it will happen. That's why you're seeing the antibodies coming out across the entire spectrum. And we saw that on live display yesterday with this confrontation with one of the key Fedsurrection cover-up artists, Michael Fanone.
All right, Ivan Raiklen, thank you so much. You guys be safe. We'll continue to watch the work you do. God bless. Wow, so there you go. Total lies. Corporate media says that Ivan Raiklen went and started a fight with him, a confrontation. He saw the truth. He said, hey, can we talk about this? Put his hand out, and then he blew up at him.
Think you know the full story of January 6th? You might want to think again. At a recent press conference, investigative reporter Cara Castronuova put the White House in the hot seat. Her target, the controversial January 6th website and the officials behind it. Castronuova demanded answers about Michael Fanone, a Capitol police officer now accused of having ties to Antifa cells. She didn't stop there. She pressed for former Attorney General Merrick Garland to testify before Congress, especially after Jack Smith's testimony left more questions than answers. The White House, through Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, stood firmly behind the site. But critics say the website pushes a one-sided narrative, calling J6 defendants patriots and casting doubt on tragic deaths. Fact-checkers have flagged claims about Roseanne Boylan's death and shifted blame on law enforcement, drawing outrage from both sides. So, who's telling the truth? And will Congress get the answers it demands? Stay tuned, because the story behind January 6th is far from over.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The War Room. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, coming to you live this Friday afternoon. Infowars.com, band.video. Please do share those links. And I'm joined now by Cara Castronuova from LindellTV.com. You can follow her on X at Cara Castronuova. She is the co-founder of CAPP, that's the Citizens Against Political Persecution and the People's January 6th Commission. She's a American champion boxer, celebrity fitness trainer, professional sports announcer. Your resume goes on and on, but now you're serving with Lindell TV and the U.S. President Press Pool. You can watch her on Newsmax at 10 p.m. EST every Saturday night on Wise Guys there on Lindell TV. Cara, thank you so much for joining us.
Quick correction, Harrison. I am not with Newsmax anymore. I'm now just with Lindell TV here in the press pool at the White House, where it's right behind me, the White House, and it's been an honor to be a part of Lindell TV. I was on Wise Guys last year, and I have to update my bio, so thank you so much for bringing my attention to that, because I know my website is not yet updated. I've been so busy here in Washington, D.C., covering news, covering the president, the Capitol, and everything else. But thank you so much for that nice introduction.
Well, thank you for coming on with us. And yeah, I know you caught up with some of the characters from the hearing yesterday, the Jack Smith hearing. We had on Ivan Raiklen explaining the bizarre outburst of Michael Fanone. You caught up with Michael Fanone. We have that video. We'll go to it quickly, get your comments on the other side. But here's Cara Castronuova catching up to Michael Fanone after the big hubbub at the Jack Smith hearing yesterday. Let's watch.
Officer Fanone, how are you today?
Oh, I'm great.
What happened in there?
What are you talking about?
That confrontation.
Jack Smith testified about how he had proof beyond reasonable doubt that Donald Trump incited, orchestrated, and funded the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6, 2021.
It seemed like there was a fight in there?
No, there was no fight.
Is it true, Officer Fanone, that you turned off your own body camera on January 6th?
No.
I saw your body cam. You turned it off yourself. You were playing dead. I saw your body cam footage.
You're a fucking
What am I?
right-wing conspiracy theorist.
I saw you turn off your body cam footage, sir, but thank you for disrespecting me. Psychopath.
Well done. Well done, Cara. Was that the response you expected from him?
I sort of did. I know how crazy he is. I mean, you saw the footage yourself of Ivan Raiklen when he went nuts in there, giving the middle finger to multiple lawmakers, the F word. So he's absolutely unhinged. And I think it's a really good display and illustration of the mental health, I guess, of a lot of the cops there on J6. I know a lot of people don't like to cope with the fact that there were bad actor cops there on J6 that were antagonizing and provoking Trump supporters. But I think now people will be more open to it after seeing the behavior of this individual yesterday and how he was literally getting confrontational in a way that I don't think has ever been seen before in Congress, where people had to hold him back. Cops had to hold him back from Ivan Raiklin. He was puffing out his chest. He was just acting so poorly. And the more I watch this video, because it has gone viral, the more I pick up on it, just body cues and body language. And when I asked him, there was a fight in there. He knew exactly what I was talking about. That was the one where he was with Ivan Raiklin. He's just so quick to lie. He goes, there was no fight. Like, he just lies like so quickly. There was no fight. It happened less than an hour ago, and it was aired on C-SPAN. You were literally trying to attack somebody for asking you a question, and then you started spewing out babble, whatever he was saying. So that stood out to me earlier when I rewatched this clip, how quick he was to just lie, just like he did on the January 6th Unselect Committee hearing many years ago, when he got on there and he was crying fake crocodile tears, just telling so many untruths and misinformation about President Trump, about everybody that was there on January 6th. Somebody had leaked his body cam footage to me many years ago and actually showed me instances where he was, quote unquote, playing dead, and also where he tried to turn off his body camera, and then at the end ultimately did turn it off himself. So all of those things are true. And I think his reaction really just, spoke volumes when he started cursing at me. You didn't see the look in his eye. You had to just be there. He wanted to say something way worse than what he said, and he took a pause and he actually corrected himself and went to right-wing conspiracy theorists, but he was ready to shout profanities. If not, I felt maybe punch me in the face. So, yes, he was very angry, and I think that really points to I was probably hitting a nerve because he knows what I was saying was true.
Well, I'm glad your expertise as a champion boxer didn't have to be used at the U.S. Capitol yesterday, but it's disturbing that it even gets to that point. We'll cover this more on the other side. I know you have to go. You're there in D.C. The storm is coming, so we'll get you out of here in just a second. But 10 more minutes with Kara Castronova on the other side. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The War Room. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, joined today live from the White House by Kara Castronova. You can follow her on X at Kara Castronova, and, of course, follow her on LindellTV.com. That's LindellTV.com. You not only confronted Michael Fanone, who, in my opinion, was absolutely psychotic, and just sticking with that for a minute, you're exactly right. He immediately lied about something that everybody knows was true. He clearly has no ability to maintain his temper. He's obviously just a rude and like spiteful person. He is either the best or the worst representation of the Democrats and the January 6th Select Committee. Anything else that you experienced there that maybe we missed from the camera, or just what was it like being there on the ground, actually in person with him?
I mean, he just is unhinged. I think that he's progressively gotten worse. I've tried to ask him questions before, but he's always protected by Antifa types, believe it or not. I actually ran into him years ago at an event where they were speaking at a college, these Capitol Police and police that were there that day on January 6th. They had Antifa with them. There was an Antifa person who told him, don't talk to me. She's a quote unquote fascist journalist. So it's bizarre that he's friends with these people when he has something on the back of his shirt about Nazis, that this is what he wore to this hearing yesterday, just to attract attention to himself, when the attention really should have been on the content of Jack Smith's testimony. He really was making it the Officer Fanone show, and he's gone viral. And I don't know if he's happy about the way he's gone viral, but he really embarrassed the Democrat Party. I don't think that they'll be inviting him around anymore, but just really the unhinged energy and just how pathetic and groveling these Capitol police officers are. He was with Officer Dunn and Officer Ganone, the other two officers that lied on the January 6th stand, and all three of them just really clinging, I guess, to their last 15 minutes of fame by showing up to this hearing in support, quote unquote, of Jack Smith. It was really just pathetic, I guess, to say the least. And, the best thing that came out of it, I think, was just how much he exposed himself and how unwell he was, and how he just showed that to the world, and how those other officers continue to stand by him. They themselves are probably just as bad as him in certain ways when it comes to their testimonies and the things that they said that just weren't true. Yeah. But, a little bit more self-control in public than Officer Fanone, certainly.
Well, and it wasn't like it just happened once. I mean, the thing with Ivan Raiklin was insane. He's talking about, this guy wants to rape my kids, like just totally unhinged. That was crazy. Then obviously, cursing at you and getting pissed at you, even though you're asking about something that we all saw happen. That is unhinged as well. But then he's also like doing this thing where he's coughing and saying, go F yourself, like in the middle of the congressman's speech. And it's like, are you a child? Like, why was he even allowed to stay in the room after doing that? It's so petulant.
It is, and I was shocked that they actually let him stay. They took him in the back for a while. I don't know what happened back there, and I guess ultimately decided they would give him one more chance to parade him around. And I guess this is their best representation that they have on that side, and they continue to cling to these cops, just in the similar way that Robert De Niro was out there in New York City with these two, saying that they're heroes and that they protected the Capitol and all of these things. So again, I don't think he's ever going to be welcomed back, unless maybe he goes into some sort of program and gets some sort of help and shows documentation of that. If he is welcomed back into Congress, then Democrat lawmakers are not as smart. I'm giving them too much credit saying that they're intelligent, but they certainly would be very foolish to bring him around again.
Oh, absolutely. But he seems like he loves the camera a little bit too much, loves the fame a little bit too much. I doubt they'll be able to keep him away for long. But of course, you also asked Jack Smith a series of questions. And I know we don't have much time, so we'll go to the video once we say goodbye to you. But he basically didn't respond, right? I mean, it's sort of radio silence, didn't want to answer any of your questions. What was that experience like? And we can play the video as B-roll, guys.
Sure. And I just, if you don't mind me making one more point about Officer Fanone, that really hit me today was that I think it shifted a little bit when it comes to Congress, because I think that J6 Republicans kind of still tiptoe around January 6th. They're really, they really don't want to accept the fact that police, because they're so back the blue and they really respect law enforcement, could have had some fault that day. So I did see a shift yesterday, especially with Troy Nels and Clay Higgins and those types that really saw, like, wait a second, like maybe there's some truth to what these people have been saying for so long, that they were provoked by Capitol Police, by J6 Police. So I did see a little bit of a shift when it comes to Republicans, seeing once and for all exactly what people have been saying. So I wanted to put out that point, and thank you, Fanone, for doing that and for revealing yourself. That was really helpful. But in regards to Jack Smith, yes, we waited for him for quite a while. I think it was about, the hearing went from 10 to about 3 or 4. And, we waited for the full 6 hours to get a question with him. Obviously, he wasn't going to answer anything with reporters. There was tons of mainstream media there, from Fox to CNN to MSNBC, all with big cameras. And what I really wanted to do was, as that, gaggle raced down the hall with him behind, in front of him, everybody trying to get that shot, I just wanted to make sure that I kept shouting and that my voice was heard on any mainstream media network that was carrying this, that I didn't put any pauses in between so they couldn't cut out those questions. Because as you know, the mainstream media has been so, just worshiping Jack Smith and talking about what a great job he did when it came to politically persecuting President Trump. So I really wanted to make sure that those questions were heard and give a different perspective to the mainstream media.
Yeah, and again, you can find those clips at Real Lindell TV on X, and my guest is Kara Castronova. You can find her at Kara Castronova. And what do you think the outcome of this is going to be? Because obviously they're not repentant, they're not apologizing, they refuse to acknowledge any wrongdoing, even when it's laid out in black and white in front of them. I mean, do you think there are going to be indictments? Do they seem concerned that there might be indictments? And what do you think the likelihood is that we see some actual justice for these, in my opinion, absolute criminals?
I hope there will be justice. And, I think that there's supposed to be another Jack Smith hearing. That's what I'm hearing rumors about. I know that the J6 committee is looking into possibly police force that day, use of force. So that would be great. And I think that this will give them new energy to do that. And, I do hope that Jack Smith, they continue to look into what he was doing. Specifically when it comes to Merrick Garland, obviously he was appointed, but a lot of people have questions about the way he was sworn in and if it was even legal the way that he was appointed. But also something that I pointed out for a long time, which is that certainly Merrick Garland had more involvement in this investigation than was let on, even though that it was supposed to be an independent investigation, and to really look into their communications, his communications with Department of Justice, his communications with the Biden regime, his communications with the Unselect Committee, with the White House, and different people that, like J6 judges, that I think that they were all communicating ex parte. And I have had this theory for many years that you just have to, FOIA or the Department of Justice just has to look into their own records, which is under the executive branch. So you could FOIA all of these things, or the president can unseal them. Only the president, I believe, is allowed to do that. So that's really what I'm hoping, that they really look into the communications between Merrick Garland. They bring Merrick Garland into Congress and they question him the way that they were questioning Jack Smith. And really my dream is that they bring a judge in and make an example, because these judges are lawless. They're absolutely reckless when it comes to the Constitution here in DC, as everybody I'm sure knows that watches your show. And there needs to be a judge that gets questioned and subpoenaed and put on the stand and asked so many questions about January 6th and about Merrick Garland and if they were speaking to him in illegal ways. So I think that that's really important. And I do think that the Congress will look into that. And I've made suggestions to some of these lawmakers off camera, and it seems that they're really receptive to it. So hopefully we'll see some of that next year. The last thing I'm going to say is I really do think that, sadly, the only way to really pick up the pace on any of these arrests or indictments is if Democrats, sadly, and this is a nightmare for many people, take back the House, because they will weaponize it like they always do. They're just not going to be able to help themselves. They're going to continue to impeach the president, abuse the subpoena power, and maybe that will really ignite a fire under the DOJ to start arresting people. I don't know what else to say. I know a lot of people are frustrated, but I'm hopeful for 2026 that we will see more arrests and investigations into all of these career criminals.
Well, we pretty much have to. I mean, without arrest of these people, our country really is gone. Well, you do incredible work, and keep being a thorn in their side, Kara. Kara Castronova.
And please keep watching Lindell TV. I just want to plug, because for Mike Lindell, who's running for governor, as you know. But please watch Lindell TV every day. We're here at the White House, and we love you guys over at InfoWars. Big fans of InfoWars and Alex Jones. And follow us on X at Lindell TV.
Well, the feeling is very mutual. LindellTV.com, at Lindell TV, at Real Lindell TV on X, and she is at Kara Castronova on X. So thank you so much for being here with us.
All the people in this church, they're living real comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. So if we disturb their Sunday, oh no, nobody should have comfort right now while our immigrant communities are afraid to leave their houses.
Yeah, did you hear that? No one gets to live in comfort right now. That is according to Kelly. Joining me to discuss is Robert Gouveia. He's a criminal defense attorney, and he also streams the show Spotlight of Justice. Catch him on X as well. Make sure you give him a follow. Robert, it's an honor to have you on the show today. We want to talk a little bit about the FACE Act, because I know that this is something that a lot of Americans were pushing for after what they saw unravel in Minnesota on Sunday. So many people were there to worship, and they weren't able to finish service because of these so-called protesters. What do you make of Kelly's claims there, where he specifically is saying, it sounds like he's pretty much, if you just take that clip and you play it in front of a jury, it sounds exactly what the FACE Act was created to prevent from happening. What do you make of it?
Yeah, exactly. First of all, thanks, Brianna, for having us here. It was very disturbing what we saw there. And I think the 3 arrests are a good start. Yeah. But it wasn't just William Kelly. It was also the rest of them. We even saw Don Lemon outside before they went inside the church, all kind of talking about their intention to disrupt the delivery of services, which was exactly what the FACE Act was set up for. And we went back and looked through a bunch of the other Biden prosecutions for FACE Act crimes, and they went wild. They were throwing people in prison for years, like 57 months, I think was the max. And what they were saying is that these people who they prosecuted and arrested were preventing the delivery of abortion services. Many people just kind of hanging outside abortion clinics, praying, kind of doing a civil protest outside abortion clinics. They went to prison for years. And when they were creating their cases and doing their investigations, they looked at their live streams, they looked at their comments, they looked at the things that they said after the fact, just like this guy, just like William Kelly. And Chantel, the other woman, you had her picture on the screen, and Nekima Levy, they've been doing the same thing. They've been going around after the fact talking about, they wanted to, essentially get in people's faces and make them uncomfortable. And the FACE Act, if the Biden administration can use it to prevent or to prosecute people who are preventing the delivery of abortion services, it also covers religious practice and religious worship. And so in this case, we saw not only these 3 people, a bunch of others, I think, that hopefully are under the scope of this investigation, who are also preventing the delivery of Christian services. And so I think that what we saw was actually very, very nice developments from the DOJ, because they moved relatively quickly on this. For the prior FACE Act prosecutions, the Biden people, it took them years actually to decide to bring these cases. There's a little bit more complex history there, because they were actually prosecuting FACE Act violations from the Trump administration. And then once the Dobbs decision came down, the abortion decision, they really ratcheted up that whole line of attack. So it took them years, though. But here, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, right? They got this thing done in a week. And I think that there's going to be a lot more to come, hopefully.
Yeah, well, hopefully. And I want to ask you about the magistrate judge who's being called into question here, because there are reports, and I don't think the DOJ has even confirmed any of this publicly, but there are reports that there was a certain magistrate judge in Minnesota who refused to sign off on the arrest warrant of Don Lemon. They're saying that his name is Douglas Micco. Apparently his wife also works separately, but also works for the assistant attorney general in Minnesota, which is obviously AG Keith Ellison. So there's obviously a conflict of interest here. Number one, being that we now hear that this magistrate judge is refusing to sign off on the arrest warrant, can you just take it to another magistrate judge? And number two, shouldn't a judge just say, okay, there's a conflict of interest here and possibly bow out of being involved in any of this? Would that normally be the protocol?
Yeah, you would imagine a judge like this would recuse himself. Of course, we're discovering this right now. So we're still waiting for the charging documents to all get dropped. They just got arrested yesterday. So presumably we'll get to see a little bit of a paper trail on this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, absolutely. I think this judge should have recused himself. And it's even worse than the fact that just, his wife happens to work for Keith Ellison, who is the attorney general there in Minnesota, the chief law enforcement officer. And this is a magistrate judge. So it's not an actual U.S. appointed judge, like a officially appointed judge. He's almost like a judicial aide in a way. Mm-hmm. And so he doesn't have the same authority as a regular duly appointed U.S. federal judge. And so I think that there will be other avenues of attack that they can use to go to a grand jury to try to basically get this judge recused off of any of their cases that handle, Don Lemon, for example, and try to find a different judge, a different set of charges. They could even go through a grand jury proceeding and bring a case that way if they think a grand jury would indict Don. But the bigger issue, I think, with this judge is certainly his wife, yes, works for Keith Ellison, the AG, but Keith Ellison, the AG, jumped on a podcast with Don Lemon and was actually kind of playing patty cake with him after the fact, after this whole thing occurred. So, in other words, if the judge would have allowed Don Lemon to be indicted by the DOJ, and I think that there's plenty of cause there for that. Don says he was just a journalist. He was there before, during, and after. Even after he was asked to leave, he was continuing to harass the parishioners, people who were there just to pray and kind of having conversations with them, getting in their faces. And this judge, if he were to have, basically no charge Don Lemon, if he would have charged Don Lemon, he ultimately did a no charge, it would have been in direct opposition to his wife's boss, who said on the podcast with him that he was protected by the First Amendment, which is completely erroneous. I think he forgot the entire analysis about the FACE Act. But if the chief attorney general, if the chief law enforcement officer is telling Don he's innocent, and then another federal judge comes in and allows him to be criminally charged, I think that that's not going to bode well for the wife. And this judge shouldn't have even made that decision, knowing that there was this close proximity with his wife on Ellison's staff, essentially, and then Ellison defending Don Lemon at every turn, hopping on podcasts with him, basically trying to set the tone and create a narrative that you can't charge Don. And maybe that was persuasive on this judge. So hopefully the DOJ is, doubling down on this and demanding that judge doesn't make decisions on mission critical issues when he's married to somebody who works for Keith Ellison.
Yeah, and I want to ask you too about this, because I think it's really interesting. When I'm watching Don Lemon prior to going inside of that church, he's not referring to it as a protest. In fact, he keeps repeatedly saying the word, this is an operation, and he's on the sidelines telling what the operation is going to be, and he's trying to be really sneaky about it. But do you think any of that's going to play into court? Because the reality of it is he's not saying protest. He keeps saying operation, and that's a very key word, I think.
Yeah, I think Don was completely a part of this whole scam. I mean, they were there before. He was recording videos saying, hey, these people are here. He was even kind of making fun of them. He thought that they were like MAGA protesters, he said. And then he said, oh, they're very diverse. And then he realized who they were. And then he says, this is why we're here. This is all part of the intention. And I think a strong defense would be that he was an independent journalist who just kind of came upon the scene and just kind of arrived there. What's going on? And then decided to report on it. But you can't instigate the crime and then report on the crime. And these two were colluding together. I think they were co-conspirators because she didn't have the microphone, the megaphone. She didn't have the big audience, and he didn't have the foot soldiers to go in there and interrupt this church. So they worked together. She was performing for him, and he was covering her performance. And so together, I think that they were part of this operation. And for Don then to turn around and say, no, I'm just an innocent journo, that didn't apply to other journos on, for example, J6, who all got arrested and served prison time. They didn't say, we're just reporting on things. You can't arrest us. They rounded them up and put them in jail. So Don trying to use this journalist force field, I think, might stall this out a little bit, but ultimately, based on the things that he did, right? There's indicia that he had intent, that he was there to obstruct, that he wasn't just there reporting as an independent journalist, that he was part of this operation. And so hopefully the DOJ keeps the pressure on him, and we get a non-biased judge who can look at this case fairly and apply the same standard that they would have applied to pro-lifers who were praying outside facilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope that they can. I mean, Bev Williams is someone who I sat down with and spoke with her after she was released from prison. And she was someone who they said that she committed violence, but it wasn't that. She was just trying to sit down and do a sit-in protest outside of an abortion clinic. And then one of the employees jammed their hand by opening up the door where Bev was sitting. And that's how the injury was created. But she was sentenced to 3 years in prison. And this was a young mother who they were trying to take away from her kids. And so if we're all playing by the same set of standards, yeah, that should happen. And, they give them the James O'Keefe treatment, raid their homes. And then when you ask for an explanation as to why the raid happened, give them a heavily redacted document as the justification and tell them, good luck with that. I was there when Steve Baker, as you were just alluding to there, Steve Baker, J6 reporter, was inside the Capitol when everything was going down. And because they believed that Steve had some conservative beliefs, they deemed him not as a journalist. And so he was facing prison time. I mean, they shackled him and dragged him off. So if we're all playing by the same set of rules, then Don Lemon needs a mugshot. And I can't wait for it. I've already got the merch ready to go once we get that up and running. So fingers crossed here. But I also want to switch
them up. That sounds great.
I want to switch up gears a little bit because, a lot of us have been waiting to hear from Jack Smith. And yesterday, it wasn't so groundbreaking, the testimony. I enjoyed his deposition more than the public testimony that we heard yesterday. But there was an interesting moment where Jack Smith was asked about the confidential sources that were paid thousands of our dollars to during his investigation in clip 14. Take a listen.
We've gathered at $35 million. And what I want to know is how much of that $35 million of taxpayer money did you give to confidential human sources? We know you gave $20,000 to someone. It just got reported last week. How much more money did you pay confidential people we don't know about, with American tax money going after the guy we elected president?
My recollection regards the $20,000, which was not a payment from me. It was me approving a payment by the FBI to a confidential human source who was reviewing video and photographic.
Who's the source?
I do not know the identity of the source.
How many other payments went to this source or other sources?
As I sit here, I do not know the answer to that question. My role as special counsel,
$35 million, and you're giving money to people the country doesn't know who they are, and you're giving their hard-earned money to these folks? The main question I have, too, with this is, why'd you have to do it? You subpoenaed bank records from the RNC, phone records from members of Congress. You got subpoenas for bank records for people sitting right there in the front row. Why did you have to pay people for information when you could subpoena them and get it?
Time has expired.
Time has expired. You can answer the question, though. Country'd like to know why you had to do it.
My recollection and understanding is the payment, the $20,000 that I approved, was for a confidential human source to assist in the review of video and photographic evidence showing people who were attacking the Capitol, attacking police officers, obstructing the proceeding, and seeing if we could prove that some of those people had come directly.
That wasn't my question, but my time has expired. The gentleman.
So what do you make of all of this? Because, again, coughing up thousands of dollars, well, there's no real need for that unless you're really trying to pay people off.
Yeah, it's grotesque. And they are not beyond manufacturing evidence. We've seen them do this for a long time. They created evidence of, bad phone call with Trump and Raffensperger in Georgia. They said Trump was trying to insurrect the Capitol building when he said, go peacefully and patriotically protest, right? They have been perverting evidence consistently. They tried to throw him off the ballot, so we couldn't even vote for him just by virtue of the fact of, judges were upset with J6. So $20,000 for a confidential human source that he doesn't even know who that person is. It's like, that's a lot of money for somebody to just kind of throw away on an unnamed person for some reason. So I think that they were probably manufacturing evidence and trying to identify areas that they could use that were useful because they didn't have anything else. And I think about the opportunity cost too. The $35 million is probably a low estimate, but Trump had to come out of pocket to defend that, right? So at least $35 million that we paid for, by the way, and then he has to come back and maybe double or triple that. All of that is money that could have been used for the campaign. Instead, he had to fight back against a political attack by illegitimate Jack Smith, by the way, who another, I think, bombshell of the whole hearing was that his oath was very problematic when he was originally appointed. And we saw that the Mar-a-Lago, the classified documents case, got dismissed on the basis that Jack Smith is illegitimate because of the statutes that they used to create the special counsel, which were fake. You know, they were not even really legitimate, is what Cannon found out. But yesterday we also heard that his oath that he was supposed to take with a witness and a signature was also invalid. And we went back and we looked at the timeline on this, and I think this is extremely scandalous because remember, Trump got appointed or actually re-announced that he was going to run for president November 15, 2022. So November 15, 2022, has not been indicted yet by Jack Smith. Jack gets appointed November 18th. So about 3 days later, Jack comes in, takes the first oath. There's a huge problem with the first oath because it's missing a witness, essentially. So he signed it illegally. So then Jack, right after that, he's got an illegal oath. He indicts Trump twice, June 8th, 23, August 1st, 23. Trump gets indicted twice. Then the DOJ, Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, and the rest of them, they came back in October. So the second indictment is August 23. Jack takes a second oath, October 23. And that's essentially to ratify the prior bad oath. And so we have seen recently the judges just tripping all over themselves to throw out Trump prosecutor cases. For example, Lindsay Halligan, Alina Abba, these two U.S. attorneys bringing cases. Judges on their own, sua sponte, just say, oh, you're illegal. In fact, one of them was screaming at Halligan, saying you have to get off your cases or I'm going to refer you to the bar. I'm going to refer you for ethics complaints because the judges are kind of vetting and validating Trump U.S. attorneys. But Jack Smith never had that same problem. And the judges, Judge Chutkin, was going to allow him to run a trial in like 9 months. Bruce Reinhart was, signing off search warrants for the case that Jack Smith ultimately inherited. And nobody questioned any of it at all. But we learned, even Jack, he's like, I don't remember. Just like you in that clip you played, I don't remember who gave me the oath. I don't remember the second oath. I don't remember the reason for the second oath. We all know what the reason is because the first oath was invalid. And if you have an illegally appointed U.S. attorney, those indictments should have never come down the line either. And nobody caught that throughout the entire process. In fact, Trump had to fight for it in Mar-a-Lago to get Judge Cannon to dismiss his case. It was like a never-ending battle. And so the ramifications of that, what are the consequences of that? Did Merrick Garland, did Lisa Monaco, did Jack Smith know that all of this was illegal and then they just basically covered it up and tried to ratify it after the fact? It's scandalous. The whole thing was illegitimate from its inception, and we're starting to learn more about it. The question, of course, is what will the consequences be? Will Congress make a criminal referral over to Pam Bondi, or will Pam Bondi pick this up and run with it? But we're still learning more about the Jack Smith case, and it's still kind of open because there's volume 2 of Jack Smith's report that we're battling about in Florida. In fact, Trump just submitted an oppositional brief to prevent Judge Cannon from releasing that because volume 1 was already released. That was the J6 case, and it's a fake report created by a fake illegitimate prosecutor. So now we're trying to battle to keep the second volume from coming out, but that's taking place in Cannon's courtroom right now in Florida. So the Jack Smith saga continues. Yeah, and Cannon, I have to say, is by far the fairest judge that we've seen thus far. So we'll see how that pans out, but she's been pretty solid on all of this. I wanted to get your take on this. This was a big story earlier this week. And I just want to kind of hear what the next phase of all of this is, because obviously Bill and Hillary Clinton think that they are above the law and that they don't have to actually show up when they're subpoenaed to do so in front of a congressional committee. And because of all of that, shockingly, 9 Democrats on the House Oversight Committee voted to actually hold Bill in contempt, while I believe it was 3 sided with Republicans for the separate vote on Hillary Clinton. So obviously they're fired up on this issue, and it's something that both sides agree on, probably because they both signed off on the subpoena in the first place. But what do you make of this, and what's the next step moving forward? Does this go straight to the DOJ and we wait for Pam Bondi to do something, hopefully? This should go to the full House floor. So I think there'll be a full vote in February. So I think they're on out of session, and they come back. It should require a full House vote, is my understanding. And then from there, it will go over to Pam Bondi as a legitimate criminal referral. If I remember correctly, that's how it happened with Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon and the others who got held in contempt of Congress. So it should be happening pretty soon. And I, like you, was very surprised by this. I thought, wow, this is interesting that Democrats, some of them, not all of them, are sticking to their guns, essentially, right? They voted to issue the subpoenas for Bill and Hillary. Then they threw a big fit when they didn't show up for the depo. And we had James Comer and others come out in the halls of Congress and say, where are they? Why aren't they here? And at that moment, a bunch of Democrats kind of reversed and like, well, we don't need them. You know, you didn't bring in these other people who you sent subpoenas to. And Bill Clinton is a former president. So we should, you know, be nice to him. And that was, I think, an indicator that they were not going to vote ultimately to take this out of committee and bring it to the full floor for a contempt vote. But a couple of them did, to their credit. And I think it's because they're pretty much anchored in on this. I don't think that they realized that when they were going to send the subpoena out, that James Comer had evidence that Bill Clinton, he gave us these numbers, 17 times, apparently, Epstein went to the White House while Bill Clinton was president, which is just wild to me. And that has not been, I think, a big headline that we've been seeing spread around from the media. It's quite the opposite. And then 27 times on the airplane. So this criminal referral, and the Clintons are saying it's illegitimate. The subpoenas are illegitimate. There's no legitimate legislative purpose and blah, blah, blah. But I think it's even maybe more legitimate than any of the J6 subpoenas, because this is actually a bipartisan consensus in Congress. We actually have Democrats on this committee who voted for it, whereas the J6 Select Committee was illegally constituted under the rules. They just threw on, you know, 2 token Republicans. So I think these actually carry more force and weight under the law. And if Bill Clinton is going to say something like he's got presidential immunity for having Jeffrey Epstein over to his house, over to the White House, then you know, he can make that argument in criminal court. But I would imagine, and this happened very rapidly under the last administration, when Liz Cheney sent the criminal contempt referrals over to the Merrick Garland, they had Bannon and Navarro arrested quickly. So I don't know exactly what the arrest procedure will look like for a former president. I mean, they were gearing that up for Trump, but the Clintons, I expect to be referred over. And I think that even some Democrats, as long as the Republicans stay unified in their votes, I think that they may even get some Democrats to flip this over, and the Clintons may really be facing contempt.
Yeah, well, we look forward to that, and we're hopeful. We're hopeful that's where we go with all of this. Robert Gouveia, thank you so much for joining us. As always, do an incredible job on X, as well as your show, which I highly recommend our audience. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, Spotlight of Justice. You do an incredible job at breaking down these complex legal issues, and we're very grateful for that. So thank you for joining us, as always.
Thanks, Brianna. Always great to be here.